esoteric philosophy for later, and just get into some practical things. What we were going to do, I think, we were going to address Radharani, and then Korma is supposed to come and do interment today. I'll show some different ways that I like to do interment. I'm sure he has other varieties. So as far as I remember, we did rings on Jam also. Usually I put 3 rings on these fingers. I don't totally clutter his hand. Usually 3, a bigger ring here on his ring finger, or a signet ring, and then 2 smaller rings. And then usually I put 1 ring at least on his ring finger here. Sometimes there's another ring there. And I usually put a toe ring and 2 more rings here, because usually, it starts to look like just a mess of rings. If you put too many, it doesn't allow his toes to show rings. But as far as Radharani's rings are concerned, this should be noted. On Radharani's right hand, it is mentioned in Shastra, at least this description I read. I forget whether it was Govinda Lilamrita or Krishna Bhavanamrita, one of those 2, where it's describing the morning dressing of Srimati Radharani at Yadav. So in that book, it describes that on her right hand, she only wears 2 rings. One is on her small finger, and one is on her ring finger. The signet ring will be on her ring finger. In other words, it'll be a larger ring on a ring finger, and naturally, because the small finger is smaller, there should be a smaller, more delicate ring. And on her left hand, there are rings on all 4 fingers and her thumb. The bigger ring will be on her ring finger, and a very small ring on her pinky, small little finger, and then a slightly bigger ring on her thumb. And usually the way I do it is if I have to, if I don't have small enough rings, sometimes is the situation, I'll make sure that there's a small ring between 2 larger rings. The largest ring will be on a ring finger, and a small ring in between, and then maybe a larger ring here because there's more room to deal with it. All 5 fingers, 4 fingers and the thumb on her left hand will be having rings. These rings are way too big. And remember, when you put on rings, you don't want any blue tack to show. So very often, the easiest way to deal with that is to pull a larger mass of blue tack toward the back of the ring, so that when you put the ring on, the front goes easily to the surface of the finger, and the back, where the more blue tack would be, which would be holding it in place, that would not be seen once you're going at it from an angle. We'll have to just budget, because there's smaller rings. Let's pretend that's a smaller ring. to do this quickly so that we have more time for you to do it. Well, usually because I like to show some of his hand. So I'll put one on his finger, the lead finger, put one on the ring finger, one on the finger. And usually it's better to have a taller ring, you can say, rounding up a little more on this back finger just so you can see it. Because usually the back finger is going, different deities are shaped differently, but this gives you a chance to see that there is a ring there. But can you understand what I've done wrong? Think what I said yesterday.
You're jumping. You're jumping from one arm to...
No, that's not a... Usually you dress one first. I'm just catching up for what I didn't do yesterday. Huh?
You need to put the toe rings and the...
No, I've already put the toe rings.
Yeah.
Yesterday we put the toe rings. But it does have something to do with order.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You just put the toe ring, one toe ring just now.
No, that's for him.
Yeah.
That doesn't... That,
Okay, for other...
yeah, that doesn't matter really.
You put the button?
Huh? No. Remember I was making a point about how you don't want to do things which complicate your job. You have to do things in layers, systematically. You know, the inside layer has to be done first, then the outside layer. Just like you don't want to put her outside dress and then realize you didn't put her underskirt. You know. So similarly, you wouldn't want to put all of her necklaces and then realize you didn't put the belt, and then you have to go under the necklaces, you know, to get the belt on, and that messes up whatever you've done. See? So similarly, just now, I put on the rings, but yeah, the bangles, especially if it's a bangle that is an expanding type or whatever, it has to slip over her hand. It's one thing if the bangle like this, you know, could go on easily without any problem. But if this is also no real problem. Many times you have these kind of bangles that are elastic. So it's better to get in the habit, just so you can have that option of whichever bangle you want. Just get in the habit of putting the bangles on first, and then put the rings on after you put the bangles on. Yeah, he's expanding kind of. I wonder if it's because if you try to get it in the under, what a drag, you know. Can be done, but it's usually really disastrous. So it's important to remember the idea of putting on systematically in layers. bottom up and inside out. One more. You usually put 3 rings on each toe. Like that. Yes, bracelets.
Is there any importance of order when you're doing jewelry, like starting with the feet and working your way?
Yeah, usually I just so that the idea is that I don't think that there's a rule as such, but the idea is that you want to do it so that as you're dressing the deity, you leave behind, finished, steps.
So there's nothing like controversial about starting with feet?
No, well, that's the idea. Generally, you would. There's in Radha Krishna Leela, there are many different devotees, Sakis dressing or Sakas dressing Krishna, Sakis dressing Radharani, like that. Sometimes the Sakis also dress Krishna, but there's many devotees simultaneously. Someone's combing the hair, someone's they do it in an order, but at times there are different people doing different things at the same time also. But usually what I would do, because sometimes devotees have a tendency to forget to put on the ankle bracelets. They get absorbed, they think dressing the deity is the garland. So finally they get the garland on and they forget, oh no, I didn't put on the belt or something. And then, or they get everything on, then the curtains open and, oh no, I forgot to put on ankle bells. So you have to, it's better to work from the bottom up. First put on the ankle bells, put on, bathe them, then put on his dhoti, put on his ankle bells. Do the basic things, the dhoti, the belt can even come later, but dhoti and the ankle bells, get the ankle bells done so that you don't have to think about it anymore. You don't have to remember that you shouldn't forget. You've already done it. And then put on the rings, and then move up, and put on the sash, then the belt, and then do the chadar, because the chadar sometimes comes over different ways, so you want to get the belt done first before you put the chadar on. Put the chadar on, then put the garland, and then put the necklaces after the garland. On Radharani it's different. You put the necklace on first, and then you put the garland. But for Shyamsundar it's easier to deal with because you have to put the garland in first, right? You understand? The garland goes in first. Then you put the necklaces. And then, you have to remember not to put the earrings on before you put the necklaces on. The simple things, common sense things, But devotees make mistakes. They get excited about dressing the deity. And then they put the earrings on because and then they go, oh no. Then they try to get the necklace on and the earrings getting in the way of the necklace, and then they have to end up wasting time. Because you're pressed for time. The time is cruel. Clock is, running. And the curtain's going to open and all the Maharajas are going to be stamping their dundas, what's going on. So, yes, earrings. I usually like dangling earrings. There's not much of any kind of dangling earrings. We'll pretend. As we put the necklace on. Sometimes they have the makara-shaped earrings. Depending on that doesn't always look good. Sometimes it's nice. He doesn't have a flute. I could show you some interesting ways. Maybe if we can arrange for a flute. Yeah, something, anything. And then to tomorrow or whenever we can arrange for that, and I can show you some interesting ways of wrapping the flute fragments. You know, sometimes I like to put it, because I'm fond of Krishna's flute. My favorite chapter in the Krishna book, from the very first time I read the Krishna book, when I was a new bhakta, was the gopis attracted by the flute. That was my favorite chapter. So that's part of my Krishna conscious fiber. Is Krishna's flute. So I like to decorate his flute. And there's different ways of doing it. Some other time. Is there hair? Well, we can do that. And, okay, so now, remember the choker goes first. We're going to have a choker here for Radharani. That has to go first. And then the longer strings of pearls goes after you from the choker. First belt. Usually I do the toe rings, and then I do get the rings done. You know, first do the toe rings and ankle bracelet, and the wrist bracelet, and the ankle bracelet, toe rings, and that helps to keep your mind a little organized. You know, ankle bracelets and the toe rings, then wrist bracelets and the finger rings, and then belt. And after the belt, the choker. You got it? So we'll pretend this is a choker. I know a lot of people like to do it, but I feel that if you pile all kinds of things up, you know, so that it looks a little stuffy, you know, that's my personal opinion. Some people think it looks more opulent, you know, like Queen Elizabeth or somebody, you know, with stuff all up around her neck, you know. But personally, I like to keep it a little light. This is a little heavy in my opinion, but I would prefer something lighter. The mark of an artist, because this is an art, is that you can take a piece of junk and make it look good, and that you have to, you know, be willing to do. Like we were discussing yesterday about two levels of ruchi, as mentioned in Madhurya Kadambini. 2 levels of ruchi, one with accoutrements and one without accoutrements. In other words, when you're dependent on accoutrements, then you want to worship the deities. When the deities, you know, have all nice paraphernalia, silver paraphernalia, and all nice, you know, jewelry and nice dresses, then you feel inspired to worship the deity. But sometimes, you know, in different circumstances, and depends on how poor you are, you know how poor the temple is, you may not have, you know, the best paraphernalia. You may not have the most attractive jewelry, but you have to think, you know, how to make them look as nice as possible, you know, and that's a mark of your devotion to the deity. You're not dependent on it. Your enthusiasm will show. Just like if someone is doing kirtan, even, you'll see how they're enthusiastic about chanting Hare Krishna. Or if they're preaching in some way, giving Bhagavatam class, you see that some people are more enthusiastic. So your enthusiasm shows through your service, like that. So similarly, the love for the deity is seen, you know.
Do you have favorite pieces of jewelry that you use a lot?
Yeah, I do. Things that I think look nicer. Yeah. But you know, one man's food is another man's poison. So ultimately, we have to come to the platform of becoming aware, at least in terms of gradually absorbing ourselves in the internal meditation. Because in some places, in Hari Bhakti Vilas, Forgive me for bringing that book into the picture, but it does say that if you don't do manasi seva before you do the actual external seva, then your external seva will bear no fruit. Your puja will bear no fruit. So the internal seva, like we were mentioning yesterday, of the Bhuta Shuddhi, for internally conceiving of yourself as being something beyond what you are physically, but that has to be, gradually evolved in terms of your spiritual elevation. It's not that you just go around imagining yourself to be something, but you should know that you are, a spiritual entity, and you have a spiritual form and all these things. So similarly, how you're going to participate in your manasi seva, you have to be something. You're not going to just be, what's your name? I forget your name.
Dharmadas.
Dharmadas. You're not going to be a Dharmadas there. You're going to be some other, delightful entity. So then you're going to be thinking in terms of how Radharani likes to be dressed, not just what you like. That's an important point. Is that you have to start becoming perceptive of what the deity wants, because after all, they're persons, and there may be things that they just don't like. And sometimes, you put something on, and the deity throws it off, and you put it back on because you insist, but then throws it off again. Then you have to start thinking that, well, maybe the deity doesn't like what you're putting on. So then try something else. There is a certain amount of relationship that has to actually be cultivated, toward in the service of the deity. So, and as you serve the deity, basically you become more and more familiar with, not familiar in the sense that familiarity breeds contempt, but familiar in the sense that you become perceptive of, what the deity is all about. And then gradually, as you make advancement, and you start to become more aware of what Radharani likes according to Shastra, just like we made this point about the rings. You know that Radharani wears this kind of rings. So then if you become aware of that, just like I don't think we have too many peacock feathers here, but in a book called Rajabriti Chintamani, and also in other books, there's a description of how Radharani loves to decorate her braids with peacock feathers. And Govinda Lilamrita describes how she has two braids, and they come and they merge into one braid. But practically you don't see that very much. She has two braids coming from the back, and they merge into one braid. And then usually if she's going to have it coming forward, she would have it over her left shoulder. Sometimes I put it over the right shoulder, just to be different according to the way I swing the garland or whatever. But I know, really, that she prefers to have it over her left shoulder. Also, another thing is that Krishna does actually like to wear this dangling nose ring here. Usually what I do is that you see how the top of the pin is kind of shaped like a teardrop. So if I don't have anything else, I'll take wire clippers and cut the pin head off and use the pin head and just put a little blue tack behind and put it there to more or less simulate, the dangling of that elephant pearl.
Somebody said that only Thai should not have those rings.
Yeah, that's going to touch.
Or anything there.
Yeah, generally, I remember hearing, I didn't hear Prabhupada directly say it, but since my very beginning, I was trained that Gaurnitai should not be having gopi dots or anything. But we do read in Shastra that his face is sometimes decorated with musk tilak, and so, But the real thing is that it should be, of course, tastefully someone's going to think that it's tastefully, and someone's going to think that it's not so tasteful, you know. But the main principle is just like, generally, I don't like to, although it does mention in Shastra how the Sakis decorate Radharani's face by drawing various pictures of mangoes or dolphins or different kinds of pictures on her cheeks and this and that. But personally, you know, I like the way Radharani is like she is, you know. And if I do put any gopi dots around, which I like to do also sometimes, but they'll be very light. Not that it looks so heavy that it distracts from the beautiful features of her face, you see. So in the same way, whatever you do, you know, shouldn't be too outrageous, you know, that it kind of like makes you look at the outrageous thing that you did instead of looking at Krishna. Let's see what we have in the way of necklaces. Generally, I don't like these kind of necklaces that are stuck onto the screen. These are okay for like if you want to wrap or it's best if you have time and you do it beforehand, you take apart her braid so that the kuchi can be also because this is the kuchi here, and there's a cloth. You see as it goes up, you understand? It's connected to it. But as you're entwining the kuchi and the triveni, then this can also be, there can be pearls also done inside the entwining process. That's the best thing. But if you're pinched for time and that's not done, which happens a lot, and what we usually do in Vrindavan is we just wrap it around like this. And usually the easy way to deal with it, flower garlands is another thing, but when you have pearls, the easiest way is to wrap it starting from the top. But that's another subject matter. We'll get to in a minute. This will it fit? Maybe. Yeah. No, I think it'll work. I don't see how you can play with that anyway.
Krishna's very expert.
Yeah, it's going toward his cheek. So another thing here is when you put the back of the necklaces, when you put the necklaces on, you start small, more delicate, and then you gradually get bigger. And usually I put on at least 3, sometimes 4, and rarely 5 necklaces. That gets a little bit too Aishwarya for me. But 3 is okay. And 4 sometimes, depending on, a lot of it has to do, like, I'm not actually able to, next year we should get outfits with color coordinated jewelry so that we can demonstrate what color coordination is all about, because it's one of the most important aspects of dressing the deity, is to make sure that whatever colors you have, but I'll just tell you in theory, whatever colors you choose from the deity, you should choose the colors that are corresponding to different colors in the outfit. Not that see here we have a pink and blue and white and gold outfit, light blue, and a little like turquoise here. Huh? So you wouldn't be putting purple. You read my mind. You wouldn't be putting purple. You wouldn't be putting orange. Or green, like this green. And you shouldn't be thinking, at least this is my school of thinking. is that you shouldn't be thinking that, well, the peacock feather has green in it. Therefore, I'll put green. Or the Tulsi Mala on Krishna has green. Flowers are flowers. If you can actually match the flowers, that's best. But if you don't have matching flowers, relegate flowers to the realm of flowers. And relegate jewelry to the realm of ornaments which are complementing the dress. That's my experience, my personal opinion. So let's see what we're going to do with this. Pardon me. That's all. I'll just put through. See how it's rolling to the side? Like that, so you want to keep it together. We have to dress the deity like that, as we were mentioning yesterday, so as to avoid offense. If unqualified people, they may become materially affected. And usually, I try to have them evenly spaced, like this, in consecutive order. And usually you have to, this is where our blue tack kata yesterday comes to mind. Because here's a situation where you use a little blue tack to hold it in place. But then blue tack invariably gets stuck onto the blouse, right? So then, when the night dressing for jewelry takes the jewelry off, then you should be mindful to take the wad of blue tack and just take it off, because otherwise, if he doesn't take it off, someone else is going to come along and do the same thing, and then someone else is going to come along and do the same thing, and pretty soon you have a blouse full of blue tack. And then because dust is in the atmosphere, dust gets on it, and the blue tack starts getting brown and starts looking very niggardly. No, it's not. That's only for the garland. It's easier with the So then, is there a garland for Radharani? Did anyone bring any kind of a garland for her?
No, that doesn't stain the dress.
If it gets really gummed in there, then it can. I read in one scripture where it mentions that when you put the garland on Radharani, you should touch it to his feet first. Touch it to his feet, and then she can wear his prasadi mala, which she likes. As far as the mala are concerned, in Vrindavan, the Matajis especially, they like to make very opulent mala for Radharani, more opulent than for Krishna. But sometimes it's a little too heavy. Sometimes it has a tendency to cover up too much of her form. But it is opulent and it's nice, and that's the expression of their desire to glorify Radharani, which is natural. Especially in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is Radharani's home, So she's the queen of Vrindavan, and therefore there's a special place in our heart for Radharani in Vrindavan. But the fact of the matter is that sometimes a little thinner garland or garlands, which it depends on how it can be organized. See how the garland is falling to the side like this? So that has to be avoided. Sometimes you can, depending on if you want to swing the garland, then you can pin one side and leave the other side like that. You know, you can adjust things in such a way as to make it look like everything is flowing in one way or another. But for this time, we're just going to, because it's such a short garland anyway. But sometimes I like to swing the garland using a string, just like we did for Shamsundar. We'll, and even if there's a locket on the end, you know, double or triple locket on the end, then when we swing it to the side, you can use strings to do that. Or sometimes if you don't swing it very dramatically, then swinging it a little ways, then you can even pin it to a dress if it doesn't pull the dress and make the form of the dress disturbed. If it pulls the dress, then it's better to use strings, even if the string cuts across the cloth. But for now, we'll just do it this way. And you have to, I don't know if you need to get up to see this, but because her breasts are probably the most you can say sensitive, so you definitely don't want to touch her with the pin. Don't even come close. So there's a way to do it. You have to catch this side is a little it's having to come close. So you catch it, and then even if you have to come close, a little closer, but you don't touch her. Just catch the very outside, and then push the pin through and up like this. The idea is when then you push it into a flower so that it's solidly established. The idea is that the head of the pin, although we pray that it doesn't give her too much discomforture, but the head of the pin will rest on her breast and disallow the garland to swing out. You see? Sometimes you need, you may need to have a little more like that. And the pin shouldn't be seen from the front. The same thing from this side. You might want to do a little more. So there's more leverage. Or something. So it's better to put the earrings on first. Then what's next? Nose ring. Don't forget the nose ring. Don't forget running where's the nose ring. Even sometimes I'll put the nose ring immediately after I put the ankle bracelets before I even do anything else, just so that I don't forget. And another point, although I heard that you said something about the rouge on the cheeks of Radharani, but we could have a private discussion about that. But I'd just like to mention that there is Shastric evidence in Krishna book, in 2 chapters, there's Shastric evidence where the gopis are wearing kumkum on their cheeks. It describes how it is that just like the the saffron pollen from the lotus flower beautifies the lotus flower. So in the same way, the kumkum that is applied to the cheeks of the gopis beautifies their faces. So there is evidence that in the Vedic culture, in the, let's say, the culture of Braja, at least, not only the younger gopis, but even the older gopis are putting kumkum on their faces. And not only on the faces, on other parts of the body, like the breast and things like that. The reason why we don't put it on the breast is because it'll stain the cloth. You know, but...
Also eyeshadow.
Yeah, eyeshadow. It may be, I'm not an expert, I usually don't put eyeshadow on. But sometimes I've seen, like Rambhadra, he would sometimes put some kind of glittery type of eyeshadow over Radharani. It can be done. But the
kajal scripture.
Yeah, kajal is there, but usually the kajal is painted on the deity already anyway. So. But if you can put eyeshadow, the main thing is you don't want her face to start looking heavy. You know, because sometimes you start to overdo things just because we're in the decoration mode, you know. And then the beauty of the deity's face, the sweetness of the deity's face becomes obliterated, you know, by all of our decorations. So it's better, especially on Radharani's face, it's better to think lighter. On Shyam's face you can think a little heavier. But even on Shyam's face, the painting of his face shouldn't be so heavy. Sometimes we see, like how at Radha Damodar Mandir, if you've seen at Radha Damodar Mandir, how they paint chakras and things on the cheeks. They do it nicely, and sometimes it looks good. It looks sometimes a little, what is the word I'm looking for? Quaint, you know, the way, because sometimes, you know, and we take it, but our standard is a little different than the standards of most of the deities in the world. In Vrindavan, their dressing is not so, let's say, so elaborate, and their painting of the face is generally more elaborate. But sometimes, you know, one chakra will be up a little bit, and the other chakra will be down. You know, they didn't get it square on. You know, so then I usually just say that, okay, anyway, you know, Radha Damodar ki jai, like that. But when I paint the deity's face, I prefer to go a little lighter. And especially in the winter time, the deity's face should be painted as little as possible. Because especially if you're in a temple like in Vrindavan, and I imagine Mayapur also, there's no heat, really. We have like little heat convectors or heat, the reflecting type of infrared heaters, you know, for the deity. But when, you know, when the door is open, there's a cold blast coming in, and we've just finished painting the deities, and they get cold. So you also have to think in these terms, like in the winter time, instead of lavishing his lotus feet with tulsi and chandan, you know, it's better to you can offer, but set it a little to the side, and so that it's like barely touching one of his toes or something like that. To think, you know, that we don't want him to get unnecessarily cold. In the winter time, there's one letter where Srila Prabhupada is telling, I think it was to Sri Govinda, perhaps in Detroit. I think Govinda was the temple president in Detroit. I don't know whether it was directly to him or to whom, but I remember the basic gist of the letter was that it is not at all good that the deities do not have warm clothes for the winter. Prabhupada was saying that. Although in some places he says that the deity is not like us, who suffers from, you know, the material condition. But in other places he would say in such a way as to actually inspire what is called Atmavat Seva. Atmavat Seva of the deity means Atmavat, just like this is saying Atmavan Manite Jagat. You know, that you see the world in terms of the way you know, experience things. So in the same way, Atmavat Seva means that you will take into consideration that if I'm feeling cold, then maybe Krishna's feeling cold. So Krishna first, me second. like that. So then you want to dress the deity with a nice, Kaji wool chadar, to make him feel warmer. Even or you might even go lighter on the flowers. There are certain flowers which are these flowers are nice for winter time. They're not so cold. But then that depends on availability as well. You see. So you do have to be thoughtful when you dress the deity. You have to be thoughtful about the deity's comfort, like that. There are like outfits which are like heavy velvet outfits, But in the summertime, when it's blistering hot, you're not going to want to put a really heavy velvet. And sometimes they make up a schedule in the temples. They'll make up a schedule just because they have X number of dresses, and without thinking of the actual nature of the dress that they're putting on, they'll schedule a dress which is actually quite a winter outfit, for the summer. So that's not so good. It's better if we can organize in such a way that lighter outfits and cooling colors even. You can even think in terms of cooling colors, like white, bluish. They're cool colors and they're warm colors. So that all actually affect your mind. So if the deities are wearing a warm color, then you can make you think that you're at least psychologically, making them warmer, feel warmer, like that. It's mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilas that if you have fire and your deity doesn't have fire, then you get sinful reactions. So it's not like, in our big fat office, we have nice, fireplace or nice heater, and then the deities are left on the altar with no heater. Or that we're bundling up nicely, with chadars and caps and everything, but the deity's left in some kind of scaly cloth without having any chadar, and painting its face without consideration of the circumstances. So we have to be thoughtful, in the way that we dress the deity, according to season. The kind of oil that you use. This is another point, but this is not actually meant for the deity dressing seminar, perhaps, but just to illustrate the point, as far as our consciousness behind what we're doing. Ultimately, why are we doing this? Can anyone say why we're dressing the deities? Why are we learning how to dress the deities? Develop a relationship beyond, prema. The idea is that this service, of course, no service in Kali Yuga is complete without performing Nam Sankirtan. So Nam Sankirtan has to be done just like we chanted a little before we started, to help make the endeavor successful. So, but still, all of our services, including the deity dressing, this is meant to help augment our natural heart's flow toward Krishna in a loving disposition. And loving means service. And service means according to what is pleasing to Krishna. Selfless service.
Can you put eyelashes on?
If we've done it before, but then it should. There are a couple different schools of thought. One is that the face of the deity should not change, but should not change in the sense that if you start putting eyelashes on, then you should make that the standard. And the deity should always have eyelashes on. But the problem with eyelashes generally that I've seen is that there's a tendency, they're made according to the size of the human eye. And sometimes the deity's eye is actually more elongated than the human eye. So then you end up with an eyelash that doesn't actually cover the rim of the eye. Or you have to fudge it by putting another piece of an eyelash, and then that can start to look a little crunky. Sometimes, just to simplify things, it is better to just allow the deity to manifest his eyelashes in your mind. But it's not altogether wrong, at least as far as I know. So your earring.
If you put a nose ring and take a chain around this, so how does it go?
It goes above.
Oh.
Yeah. You see I'm doing something wrong? I didn't put on a nose ring. See? And I'm already picking this up. As if I'm going to put this on. It's a total hassle to put the nose ring on after you put her hair on. A total hassle. So, nose ring. Where's the nose ring?
I don't know.
Do we have a nose ring? Anyway, we can use maybe this thing. But this doesn't give us an opportunity to show the chain unless we can kind of make a
Also,
chain.
how do we take it to Subhadra?
It's basically the same thing. I don't know if she has an ear on her. You put earrings so it should go above. It goes, as far as I understand, it comes like this, goes down a little bit. You don't want to just pull it straight across. Remember what we were talking about, rounding things so that when you're looking at from the darshan mandap, you'll see that it's dangling a little. It's looking around. Whereas it may look from this angle, it may look like it's dangling some, but when you get down here, it looks like it's going straight across. Should be having a round, a little loose. Did you find any earrings? I mean, nose rings? No. And especially, remember, the photo tells no lies. So, and especially, many devotees like to take photos of the deities, and then the photos get around, or else maybe you want to make a photo for your calendar in your temple or whatever, So, the face is the most important part of the deity in the sense that although the lotus feet are the most important part from one perspective, but the face is what's going to be seen by everyone, and people are going to immediately, not immediately, but ultimately, they're going to home in on the beauty of their faces. So if they, and many times snapshots are taken of the deities' faces, right? So what's going to happen if you put the nose ring on and there's a big old hunk of blue tack, So remember, blue tack, it looks ridiculous. I've seen it so many times. Devotees are not conscious of the blue tack. They'll put the tika, the mung tika will have a big wad of blue tack, and the hair gets so gummed up with blue tack, and they don't bother. Like if there's blue tack here, see like the blue tack? You see the blue tack?
Yeah.
So if it gets more and more, then before you put the mung tika on, unless it's so much that you have to cut it out with a pair of scissors, before you put the mung tika on, you have to press it together so that it makes it as small as possible. So that it actually fits behind the mung tika. So I don't think we're going to try to simulate a chain, but it should be. See, there's no chain that'll actually work. Maybe this one.
The chain across her forehead is a mantika.
It's called mung tika. Or a teacup for sure. Is that Bibi Govinda Maharaj doing kirtan?
Sounds like.
These things nice. These are beautiful girls. Oh, okay. Let's get hidden. This is what's called budgetology.
Amazing what you do now.
I'm a budgetologist from here. Consider it simulated. Okay, next is the hair. What time is it?
5:45.
Where's Karma?
I thought it was coming at 4 o'clock.
Okay, here the kuchi is on the it's on the right side, but another thing, and don't forget the bindi. She has a bindi, but most deities don't have a painted bindi. So we put a bindi. And the bindi shouldn't be too high. Like, see how it is here? This is correct. But sometimes I've seen devotees, they put it like in the middle of her forehead. Just like your bindi is down closer to between the eyebrows, right?
So when do you put the coffee cups? When do you put the coffee cups?
After.
When you finish to the hair?
Yeah, after everything. And the thing about hair is you need an achman cup.
There's one on the pulse in it.
With some water.
The lot of this got water in it.
So when you buy wigs, you don't buy natural hair.
Hmm?
When you buy the
Don't like dye natural hair? Human hair? Well, you don't know who it came from. It's probably better to get the synthetic. So you have to wet your hair a little bit. In the wintertime, you don't want to do it more. Do it as little as possible. But see all the frizzies here. So in order to get the tika on nicely, then you just smooth it with your wet palms, like that. You don't want her ears to be showing so much. On Krishna, though, the best, at least the way I was always instructed in my personal taste, I also feel it to be true, that the hair is best when it's going behind the ear. And then the turban comes, and it's revealing his ear is nice. But on Radharani, the ear is mostly covered. Now, do we have something for the tika? Yeah? And we have to fudge this too. Is there anything else? I can use this as it comes apart. I'll just make it simple. No more? Oh, here's one. Hari.
So I come to philosophy of Samadhi with your permission. You went to the tournament today?
Well, okay, it looks like it's basically, it's a little broken up. That's okay. One rule that I always follow, it's my own rule perhaps, but just like according to Hari Bhakti Vilas, you don't offer broken flowers to the deity. So similarly, nor do you worship the deity in a broken temple. So, but we have to sometimes do the best we can. At the same time, we should keep in mind that if you have a choice between a broken piece of jewelry and, a whole piece of jewelry, then it's better to offer the whole piece of jewelry. Usually when I see, even like if there's, in some of the rings where there's like crystals set in, then if there's crystals that have popped out, I don't offer it. That goes in the transcendental trash or whatever. And sometimes I see that and that's another thing that we should be careful about, and that is taking care of the jewelry nicely. After all, it's the paraphernalia of the Lord. So we don't want to, carelessly drop the jewelry in such a way that it breaks stones out and things. That should be avoided. And, a little conscientiously, carefully. Huh?
Actually, Dalram manifest is a worship time.
Who?
Dalram, Krishna Chaitanya.
For Krishna. Anangamanjari for Radha.
It is in Madhurya Bhakti. Not Balarama,
Yeah.
Anangamanjari.
And especially in the Dham, even the land of Dham. So we should be always mindful and considerate.
What do you mean by broken flowers?
Broken flowers means like if the petals are broken off the flower. And it, just as far as the consciousness, the idea is that Pujari should choose the best flower. You want to offer the best thing to Krishna. So if you're going to do artik or something, or if you're going to decorate the deity with flowers, you don't just throw a bunch of rose hips on the artik tray. You find it's better to offer one good flower than to offer 100 busted up, useless, half-rotten flowers. If all you have is a half-rotten flower to offer, then within your heart you meditate that this is the nicest, kadamba flower, or the nicest lotus flower, or whatever. That's all you have. But if you have a choice, and you have an array of different flowers, which are, and like also with colors, sometimes there will be some garish colors which are not actually coordinating with the colors in the outfit. So it's kind of like a rasabas. It's not really the one that you want. If that's all you've got, then okay, make do with whatever you got. But if you have a choice, then you should choose flowers that are having the colors and shapes or whatever, which complement the decoration.
During festivals, generally the tendency is to offer heavy garlands, a lot of flowers.
Yes.
Which will cover up the outfits.
Yes.
So is that okay?
That requires the expertise of the pujari. Like with Krishna, he can be heavier. But anyway,
And for Jagannath especially.
Huh?
For Jagannath,
Yeah, anyway. But you're going to see the outfit for the rest of the year. On a festival day, Prabhupada is told that flowers are more opulent than gold and diamonds and all varieties of precious gems in Kali Yuga. So just to offer nice opulent flowers to the deities, you could say that that's, aside from our loving devotional sentiments, that would be the success of our deity worship, is to be, having the facility to offer nice opulent flowers. That is our opulence. So this is be careful not to allow the chains of the mantika to drag into her eyes. So, and also, it's best if it as closely as possible follows the hairline. The ladies should be knowing something about this. Am I not correct? Red pins. I need small pins. Just small pins over here. Yeah. Usually what I do is this also you have to be careful, because you can scratch your ears or something, if you're not careful. So just carefully put the pin and then turn it backwards and push it forward. But be careful because it hurts.
Turn it backwards and then forward?
No, you put it into the hair and then push backwards. Kind of like catch the hair like that, so that it draws it tighter. Kind of like pulling it tight. A little leverage. And another important point is, as far as Radharani especially, but Krishna also, this Krishna is not as tilty as most Krishnas. These Krishnas are in a more jovial mood. But Radharani's head is slightly tilted. Like in Vrindavan, our Radharani is slightly tilted, is considerably tilted. So you have to be careful to line it up. Her bindi, you just follow her nose line.
Symmetry, huh?
Follow the nose line up. The bindi should be following the nose line, and the tika should also be following the nose line, so that it's actually in the center. Many times I've seen devotees that they'll think that Radharani, I don't know what they're thinking, but they think, and they'll put so that it's as if her head is straight up and down. It looks ridiculous, totally ridiculous, like child business. So you don't want to do that. And it happens so often. I've seen it over the years. You got it? Okay, so this is looking a little. Is there a veil though?
Was.
Because the veil is a little heavy, sometimes it's actually necessary to put some blue tack on it. Before you put the mantika on, it's necessary to put some blue tack to hold it down. But then you have the blue tack scenario again.
So most of the temple, we are already decorated, but most of the temple we don't have a facility like aircon. If we put a fan, it will match everything out. Most of the temple, like our temple, don't have the aircon or any, don't have a season in Malaysia. But we put fan for the noon, any worshipping daytime. The fan is well, means he will pull down some, like you putting the pin, he will drop down.
Then you have to think ahead. Think ahead. And secure everything nicely in consideration of that.
Like this, we won't cannot put a pen for the deity's pen direct to the deity. To put a pen means the rule, everything can be matched.
The fan, you're saying? Like a
Yes,
ceiling fan?
yes,
Like
yes,
this?
yes.
Yeah. Anyway, you do the best you can.
Before we put on the veil, do we put these flowers around the veil?
What's that?
Before we put on the veil, do we put these flowers?
No. Put the wig on first, then put the mantika, and then after mantika, you put on the veil. So we don't have a veil. Veil is an important topic of discussion. Because, look at the way you're wearing the veil. See how the veil is? I need the veil in the next in my next life. When I Krishna's mercy, Srila Prabhupada's mercy, maybe I'll go to the formal Leelas of Krishna. At least if I die in Vrindavan, which I'm hoping. Whatever you do, don't drag me out of Vrindavan.
Can we use?
No, the thing is, I need one that has, like the way the deities are. There's a backing, and then there's the front design. So there's a few things that should be discussed concerning, how to actually put on the veil.
I can't find it. There was one.
Okay, let's see. This one does have a back and a front. Okay, so I see how they're doing it here in Mayapur, but I don't agree with it philosophically. No lady would put her veil on with the decorations on the inside. Isn't it? So, why would someone wear it like this so that when it's put out so you can see the nice cloth? There's other ways of showing the nice cloth. You see? So, the way I use it, there's a few different ways. But I can't deal with this. This is not, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. There's a couple ways of doing it. One is where you fold it in the middle, and then you fold it. This devotees also do. They fold it again and bring it up so that when you place it on Radharani's head, you don't want to come too far forward, because Prabhupada said that the hairline, Radharani's hairline, is very beautiful. So you don't want to completely cover her hairline, like maybe an inch or so, depending on how big the deity is. Where what?
The veil of something.
No, softer is more difficult to do. So, you want to anchor the veil into her hair without, scratching her. So you just put a pin here.
How did you fold the veil?
You have to first you find. Oops. I'll demonstrate it. But this isn't the only way to do it. This is one way of doing it. I guess it's the same. Okay. So you just fold it in half, and that automatically finds your middle. Sometimes, depending on how her arms are going, you have to adjust a little bit. You might need it a little longer on one side than the other. But that's because, especially if you're going to bring it around front, many times if it's on this side will end up hanging down longer, and this side coming under her elbow will be forced by the elbow to be shorter because it has to go kind of around. So if you want it to look the same length, you have to make this side a little longer. But there's ways that you can do the veil, which can end up looking almost like this on her side, complementing. Hopefully, we can arrange for a projector sometime in the next couple of days or so.
Let me know what day you want.
Yeah, I have many pictures of my dressing and Mukunda Dutt's dressing, the head Pujari there in Bali, and also Anada. Anada is getting very good. He's one of my, you could say, best students. He's doing really nicely. So when we see the photographs, then we can show different varieties of things. Right now, we're just going to give some kind of an idea, and then hopefully, if I don't ramble on too much, we'll have a little time for but I was really hoping that Karma Chaitanya would be here to do the turban. You know, he should be doing the turban for you. He'll introduce you into his style of turbans, and then later on, tomorrow or the next day, I can also show you a few different. He can do some turbans, and I can do some turbans also. You can have a different look at different styles. So here, I'm folding it in half, and then bring this up. The reason why you bring it up is so that you can easily just flip it over her head. Pin it in place. And then, because you already have the middle, and it's right here, you see? You already have the middle. And one way of doing it that many devotees do, this is also a little artificial. The other way that I objected to earlier is kind of totally artificial. This is a little artificial too, but it does give you a chance to see the cloth also. So then this would come forward. It depends on which way you want to swing the garland and how much motion you want to. Sometimes you want to put the dress in front, but usually I like to put it forward like this a little, and then just like, see how I've done with Shun? So we need another string here. We need two, maybe one string here. One more string. You can pull it out here from the middle. Maybe another string here. Maybe even another string over here. Sometimes, just to make her look like she's twirling around a little, like I'll have the dress coming like this, and then if the backdrop is close, I'll take advantage of the backdrop, although it kind of pins her up in the backdrop, but I'll take advantage of the backdrop and pin the dress back, like one string to here, and then on the back, maybe two pins on the back like that, so that it gives it this kind of look. Otherwise, this is a simple way. But personally, I don't like to see the deity just kind of like stretched, all the cloth stretched out. There's a tendency to do that, and some devotees do that, and that's okay for them. But for myself, I prefer to see her more. See? And then this, the veil can also come so that it's looking like it's rounded. It's going to be hard to do with this cloth. This is not. We can give you a little idea. one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to feel like this. You know, everything just hung up. And sometimes devotees who are obviously a little inexperienced, I mean, why would Radharani's be, you know, hung up like that? Country.
You're gonna put that piece on now and do the hair later, or you're gonna first put the hair across Radharani's shoulder if you're gonna do that?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. You can actually, you don't have to put her hair in the front. It's not a rule that you have to put the hair in front. But if you want to put the hair in front, then it's usually better before you hang the veil. Even you can put the hair on first, but then because, and even look, even if the braid that has the kuchi that has the color, like we have in Vrindavan, we have two. One kuchi, one color on one braid and another kuchi on another color, another braid, so we can choose between. So then you just pull it, even though this is on her left side, I'm pulling it over to the right side, if you want to put it on the right side, or if the color that you want is on the left side, I mean on the right side, and you want to put it over her left shoulder, like I was mentioning, then here is on the left side. You don't want the kuchi to go dragging all the way down to the ground. Her feet are here. Usually the kuchi should be up a little, you know, around her knees area. You know, not so far down. Radharani has a long braid, which is luxurious, but it's not so. And so usually if you want to you have to make sure that this fabric, you know, is in the back. And in order to get it the length that you want, you may have to pin it to her shoulder. And pinning it to her shoulder means being very careful. Just catch a little cloth and pull the cloth out from her body and then push and enter into the braid again so that it holds it in place. So there's different ways you can swing. This is not put together very nicely. It should be even, or maybe one a little forward. Certainly not like this. As far as the braid is concerned, if you want to put something,
you can put also jasmine flower around like a string, right?
Flowers come last.
Wow.
If you want to wrap any strands of pearls or whatever around, you have to start at the bottom. Because if you start at the top, either you run out too soon, or you have too much left over, and then what are you going to do with it? Usually we have, like in Vrindavan, we use clasp, like a hair clasp, you know. So then I put starting from the back side. And if you're going to wrap something, like a flower garland or a strand of jewels, I do it this way so that the line which is generated is coming in this direction, not in that direction. Because the tendency is that this will lead you more to the center of the deity than this. This will have a tendency to lead your eyes away, whereas this will lead you into the deity. pin there, and then usually I fix it with a clasp. And then go either every other, see this braid, so every other one or every third one. That gives you a little space. Also, you can put flower garland around, or you can put some decorated flowers inside. And then you have to pin it once you get to the top. So there's different things you can do with the braid also. What I like to do sometimes is I like to make it look like a snake, because in the description of how Rupa Goswami, remember how Rupa Goswami,
A cobra.
when the crippled Vaishnava was coming along and Rupa Goswami was in his meditation, he was singing Radharani, looking like there's a description of how he's looking like a snake. Oh, what? Yeah, maybe I'm getting
He
the.
was offended.
Yeah, maybe it's a different story. I can't remember. It's slipping my mind. There's a description how he's looking like that. It was written by someone. Do you remember? Do you remember the story? No.
Yeah, Rupa Goswami, when he saw the Bhagavatam, he was thinking.
It was looking like a snake,
Yes.
right? No, this was a different incident, I think. But he was saying, well, look out! There's a snake, you know. I can't remember the exact. Okay, but I like to sometimes make. Usually, if you want to make it look like a snake, you have to keep it a little longer, because then you're going to make it go like this, right? So you need a little more length for it to come down to its position. But the way I make it look like this is another thing where you have to be careful. Is you can see you put it into the back of the braid like that, put it through some hair, then you just very carefully snag the cloth here without touching her. Push it through the cloth and then back into the braid like that. See? Hiding the pin behind it. So that it can come over the garland even. And then back. Yeah, but it's a little crunky. You want to put it back over this way and pin it here. This is just one way of doing it. There are many ways of doing it. And then you can bring this over. And depending on what kind of ends you have, these are a little, you can see, they're not really cooperating. But you might want to pin them over in one direction or another. We'll fudge it again.
Do we use threads to secure the ends of a hair with the bushy, or do we use
No,
bands?
Huh? Where?
To
What?
secure these ends of a hair with this, we use threads.
Black thread.
Okay, not like that.
No. Use so. So you can pin it in place. You usually have to pin all three. You have to make the best use of that margin. Oh yeah, one other instruction that I feel is important. You see that? Bent pins are no-no. Never, ever, ever put bent pins back into the pin cushion. Because the next pujari that comes along, he needs a pin, he pulls it out, and if it's a bent pin, he can hurt the deity. So you never put bent pins back in the pin cushion. So let's pretend that it's...
Does Subhadra have hair?
Does she have hair on the deity form? That depends on how you're worshiping the deity. Certainly Subhadra has hair.
Because I've heard like different devotees sing different versions. Some devotees say they've never seen Subhadra Maharani being worshipped and some say like she does have.
Well, Subhadra Maharani certainly has hair.
She doesn't wear hair. She doesn't wear hair.
She usually doesn't wear hair. Jagannath doesn't wear hair, and
Because the form's completely.
it's a different, it's a different. But she has hair. But you can meditate on, it's a different,
We don't need to be creative in our worship. Especially.
Just like one time, I remember in Vrindavan, the curtains opened, and there was Krishna Balaram, and Krishna has, this hand is down, right, on his head, and this hand here, and he had a blue tack to the top of his hand was a conch shell. Come on, kids. Or else we see, Krishna Balaram, like with 2 6-shooters. He has.
Well, not to be hard with a cell phone and a pair of jeans.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Krishna Balaram is holding 2 cowherd sticks. Why would Krishna Balaram be holding 2 cowherd sticks? Where, anywhere in any Leela did you ever hear that he was walking around with 2 cowherd sticks? The better heard you with.
That was actually one of my questions that I wanted to ask. There's creativity that each person has when they're dressing deity. I've seen a picture of deities looking like Mr. and Mrs. Claus.
Yeah.
And so where do you draw that line?
My personal opinion is that there are parameters. As much as possible, it's not that we want to bring Krishna into the realm of Christmas trees. You don't want to decorate Krishna like a Christmas tree, and maybe you don't want to dress him like why don't we dress him up like a witch or something on Halloween? Dress Radharani like a witch and dress Krishna like a hobgoblin. Or maybe we should make him look like a jack-o'-lantern. At least in America, you know what Halloween is, maybe. There's only so far you can really go with it.
Did the Pujari at Banka Bihari get out of Vrindavan alive?
I think so. He was protected. Yeah.
That Santa Claus dress actually comes from a Coca-Cola commercial.
Yeah. Yeah. See, the thing is that it tends to bring our deity worship into the realm of material concepts. I mean, admittedly, there are various features about the worship which are, I don't want to criticize anyone, but in my personal opinion, there are many gorgeous dresses that we could dress them with if we have to think that Christmas Day is so important. I don't even know why we really have to think that Christmas Day is so important. It's just like sometimes devotees get all jacked up about New Year's. But, the Gaudiya New Year is not, the 1st of January, please. We make more of a hoopla about celebrating New Year and firecrackers and because it's changing, but that's a Christian, concept. Why do we have to integrate? It's just like we offer Krishna what he wants. What does he want? He wants Radharani. But aside from that, he likes rasgullas. Just like one time, Srila Prabhupada, just one incident, I remember Gopati Prabhu was the head cook in Chicago. And Gopati Prabhu told me this personally, that Prabhupada called him into the room. He had his secretary go down and fetch Gopati Prabhu. Called him into the room. Prabhupada had received the Maha plate from the deities. Sometimes Prabhupada would eat directly off the plate. You see, the deities plate. He said, "I can do this, but you cannot." But there was. He noticed something about the offering that was not to his liking. And he questioned Gopati, "What is this?" He was tapping on this, what was the daily sweet, right? So then Gopati says, "Srila Prabhupada, it's a carob covered peanut butter bar, Srila Prabhupada. Carob covered peanut butter bar. Carob covered peanut butter. You know how everyone likes, at least in America, carob covered or chocolate covered peanut butter, like these Reese's peanut butter cups that we used to get when we were kids. So carob covered peanut butter. So then Prabhupada chastised him, saying, "Don't offer your speculations to Krishna." He says, "I've given you so many nice sweets, gulab jam, rasgulla, rasmalai, sweet balls." He was saying like this. But he says, "Carob is for hippies. Don't offer it to the deities." Even if it's not intoxicating, still. But see, this is the point I'm making here, is here's a situation where according to our material conceptions, we're thinking to offer something that we like to the deities. But the question is, does Krishna really enjoy being dressed up like Mr. and Mrs. Claus? Who's going to judge it? I guess the Guru will have to judge it. But if the Guru...
One time in Los Angeles, when they had the small deities, devotees were making small chapatis and small samosas and all this type of stuff. And Prabhupada didn't appreciate this, they should make regular size. Yeah.
They were making miniature for the miniature.
Because that's the thing, it's like if we speculate on the worship, this is incorrect. We should have followed according to Guru Sarana Shastra. So the Acharya explains very clearly what to do. He showed the devotees how to make chapatis, he showed them how to make samosas, etc.
Yeah.
So then we speculate, because Krishna's small, therefore we have to make small. But Krishna's not small. Krishna is completely know what he comes in.
Yeah.
So we don't need to put hair on shave, hair on subhadra. As we've seen worship in Korea or other reputable temples, we follow that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Prabhupada was very much concerned about that. When he came to Mexico, he took the ashes from the plate because he was the stumble distribution. That we say, this prasad is horrible. So Deity was his whole one who was distribution. Very much concerned about first class.
Yeah, one man's food is another man's poison, but we should consider, whether Krishna feels like he's eating poison.
In the darshan book, in one of the photos I've seen, I don't remember exactly which temple, but Subhadranarayan's form has that.
There's a few photos in that book that are maybe not the best.
Srila Prabhupada once said in LA when Mataji was describing how she's dressing the deity, Srila Prabhupada said, "No, Krishna is dressing himself. He's using you
As the instrument.
as the instrument." So then that answers Santa Claus or not.
Well, are we to conclude then that Krishna used her as an instrument to dress
またセネコ。But Buddha is used to for dress the deity.
Anyway, but so anyway, that's why there's a deity worship ministry in ISKCON at least, so that some kind of standards can be maintained. Otherwise, it can get really bizarre sometimes.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
In Pancharatra Pradeep, it is said that the deity can be dressed in a local style. So, I don't know,
Local style?
it says in the Pancharatra Pradeep that
Like you see in Manipur.
Yeah, Manipur.
The local Vaishnava style, not local Western style.
Yeah, I mean, local style means putting blue jeans, Local.
Like you'll see in different parts of India, for instance, like in Bengal they wear their sari one way, in South India the ladies wear a sari a different way. So you'll see there's different Vaishnava styles, but not different Western styles.
The point is that the West really doesn't have anything to offer.
I've seen a picture in South America where Radha Krishna has these dresses, local dresses with different colors, and these hats.
Oh yeah, in Peru.
Peru, maybe.
But this is speculation of Paramatma.
Anyway, these things are going on. But we should. Personally, to be honest with you, it's just like it maybe is hot in the summer and you want to wear shorts. The men maybe want to wear shorts, so therefore we want to offer Krishna shorts first. But actually, when I look at him with a dhoti and nice chadar and nice crown, it reminds me of Krishna in the spiritual world, doesn't it? When we see the deity, we want to be reminded of where we want to go, not where we came from. So much. It's good to remember where you came from, so that you can, maybe evaluate your progress. But it's not that we want to be again and again, forced to experience impure reminiscence of our previous life of material conditioning. So, maybe the best thing isn't to offer the deities vegetarian shish kebabs. Maybe the best thing isn't to offer the deities veggie burgers or vegetarian chicken breast or various other, near beer. Or de-alcoholized wine or whatever. These things, maybe they're vegetarian, but it isn't what Krishna likes. So the idea is that we want to do as close as possible to what we can understand is pleasing to Krishna. The whole effort is to please Krishna. The deity is not for our sense gratification. Now, someone can argue that, well, if you dress him in this way or that, then the devotees will become inspired. Because, oh, how nice, it's Santa Claus, or whatever. Because my old days when I was a kid, remember the Christmas tree? Christmas play, legal, yes, in this way. But, in all due respect, I was so happy. You don't know how happy I was. I used to dress up as a Santa Claus on Santa Claus Sankirtan in America, during the Christmas season, for the Prabhupada Marathon. Now we used to call it the Christmas Marathon. Ho, ho, ho. And I was so happy when I came to Vrindavan, you didn't even hear about Christmas. At least in 1986, when I came here to stay, it was great. There was no ho ho ho's. There was no Santa Claus. There was no reindeer. There was great, fantastic. I have this in my room. I have this fireplace. A wooden fireplace. And I make sure that I keep it going, especially on Christmas Eve. You know, so if Santa Claus comes down my chimney, you'll burn his ass.
I have said this question.
You know, why would I want to dress Krishna like Santa Claus? You know, I'm so sick of Santa Claus. Anyway, so I don't want to criticize anybody, but these things are going on, and perhaps, certain elements of Krishna consciousness in terms of the progress of our consciousness to a higher taste should be taken into consideration.
I spoke to the devotees concerned about that, and they agreed to stop doing it.
Okay, very
Because
good.
they accepted it wasn't really help.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
There are any reference from the Shastra how to dress in details.
There is. We've discussed this to some extent yesterday about how, just like, and I mentioned today, like in certain places, it describes various ornaments that Srimati Radharani wears. So if you can come as close as possible, thinking of how she is described to be decorated in various ways in Scripture, but you'll find in some scriptures she's wearing a red dress, in some scriptures she's wearing a blue dress, So there's room for variety. After all, variety is the mother of enjoyment. And we don't see, like we always hear about how Krishna is wearing Pitambar Vesh, But most of our outfits are not Krishna wearing Pitambar Vesh. So then we adjust. It's mentioned also, though, that in different kunjas, like around Radha Kund, the different Sakhis will have different kunjas, and these different kunjas, everything in one kunj, everything will be golden color. And then when Radharani and Krishna, Radharani will wear golden dress, and Krishna will be sitting on the throne with Radharani, but if Jatila comes, she'll only see see Krishna, and she won't see Radharani, because Radharani will be camouflaged, by the golden atmosphere. And in another kunj, everything is blue. So then they'll see only Radharani there if any intruder comes, and they won't see Krishna. And then in some kunjas, everything is red. There's red, ruby pathways and red trees and red birds, and everything is red. So there is an idea, even in the scriptures, about different kunjas or different atmospheres that are generated for the pleasure of Radharani, or for the pleasure of Krishna ultimately. So in this way, we can think of like the backdrop that we put up and the dresses. This will require the expertise of the person who's designing the dresses, and there's different like kunjas being created for different leelas.
Because sometimes the way that we dress Krishna and Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram and Satya Rasa is different, even when we paint it from Madhurya Rasa and the art of Balaram.
Yeah, that is at a certain point will become an important consideration. What type of mood you want to convey? One thing for sure is that even though Krishna is with Balaram, no, Krishna and Balaram. If Krishna is with Balaram, it's not that he's not the lover of Radharani. But he may be, in a mood of playfulness with his cowherd boys, but he's going to sneak away as soon as possible. To go to Radha Kund. Yeah. So we want to finish this.
Finish dressing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we were on the veil before we got distracted by all the. So did we get a line? We needed another line from somewhere around here. Did you put a line here? Yeah, we'll use this line. What's the time now? What?
20 past 6.
Okay, so
4 past 6 was spot.
okay.
They are by 7 o'clock. Very good. It should be
See, look, just like I had to pull it from this side in order to get it to go back that direction. So in the same way, it's good to have from that side. There are times when you need to use more strings. It's best to use as few strings as possible. But in order to get the shape, like see how it's sagging here? So in order to get the shape, I don't know if you can see it, but you'll need to use another string. See what we have here? There's strings dangling. So then you pull the strings up behind. Sometimes it's easy enough just to hang it over another string, just pull it over and hang it. But other times you may need to. And even you can pull it like that. Like we did with his, and get this kind of thing. But in order to do that and get the same lines, you might have to use a pin. And pin it behind. Why is it in front? Should be higher. It's good to get the lines concentric if possible, but this is a piece of junk, so not going to be able to do too much with it. Maybe sometimes pull it up a little more, so that it's not sagging as much. You might have to put it in place.
Next year, I'll do my best to put it out.
You just have to make sure the pins don't show. And then this side, sometimes you can, sometimes you can put it a little in front. That means that Radharani is taking a prominent position. Sometimes you can put it behind, either by strings or even attaching it to his dhoti or something. And sometimes, depending, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. It's just like if Radharani is dancing, then like his is moving like this, so then she can also, even you can bring it out in front like that, so that it's going around this way a little. But then you would want this to go that way also, see? But otherwise, you can bring this up and pin it. You don't want things to flop, Flopping is not so good. But then another way that I like to do it sometimes is to bring it around this side and pin it and make another one of these up here. But usually what that does is it pulls this around, so then if it's long enough, you can pin this in place here before you put any other flowers on. Right?
good. You can also put the end of that cloth in Radharani's hand. One time the Buddhas were asking Prabhupada how to do Radharani's mouth. He took his chara.
In this hand?
In her up hand.
In up hand?
Yeah, he took his chara, put it over his head and put it in his hand like
Which,
that.
what, like this?
I assume so, I didn't get the details.
Sometimes I used, just for fun, I would put Sham's chutter, like Radharani's, controlling, Sham. Not that she's like Kubja. Kubja, usually it's Krishna snatching the gopis' clothes. But here it's if Radharani's holding, it's not because she's snatching him like Kubja was snatching. But she's snatching him to make sure that he doesn't leave again. Just remember that if you ever have to use pins where they're showing front legs, then you have to cover it with a flower or something. Another point, if we haven't discussed it, is that ends of pins should never show. They always have to be pushed back behind. The point of the pin shouldn't show, and the end of the pin shouldn't show. It should be put back behind, so that they don't show. And you might need another one here. Hold it out so that it's round. Let's see what's happening.
Sometimes you see altars that have lots of these hanging down.
Yeah.
And when they're not using them, they don't put them out of the way, they just leave them hanging down.
Yeah, and it looks like a bunch of spaghetti too.
Yeah, it's good to blue tack them back out of the way so you can't see them. Otherwise it looks very untidy.
If there's extra strings that you're not using, what I usually do is, usually there's like a hook or something over the side, I'll pull them all over to the side and get them out of the way. So that when you look at the backdrop, there's this few strings interfering with the darshan.
Well, another thing you can do, particularly if you've got big deities in one weapon, if you have deities this size or smaller, you know that clear nylon thread they get for sewing clothes? It's like a thread you use for sewing clothes, it's clear nylon.
It's thinner.
It's very, very thin, you can use that, you actually cannot see it from the darshan. Even if you're like 10 foot away, you can't see it. So that's also very nice.
It's a clear nylon thread, which is used for sewing clothes.
It's quite good.
They can use it in a sewing machine. This is a little heavy. So the thinner, the better.
Would that be strong enough?
It'll be strong enough.
Yeah, for big deities, like for Madhava, you couldn't use it because it's not strong enough. For deities this size, it's not a problem.
But you see how this kind of gives her like, you know, but you can't really get it so good with this kind of cloth.
In our PC, they are wearing two sets of dupattas, chadars. Two sets of chadars, two different colors, each one.
You mean the regular dress?
Sometimes, not always.
You're not talking about the wool chador that they have during the winter.
No, it's the day.
Well, sometimes what you're seeing or maybe thinking as another chador is actually just the dancing skirt.
Some of the outfits have big and small chadors.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, some of the outfits are.
Yeah, so that if it's two chadors in one.
Like sometimes you see Krishna Balaram, they got like, you know, all these.
Like you want to put two chadors on?
I would like to know how you do it, like where do you finish it?
Oh, I wouldn't do it. I don't know what the Krishna Balaram Pujari is, but sometimes I don't have so much faith in what the Krishna Balaram Pujaris are doing. Because they can do things like putting conch shells on me.
Another question I have is like sometimes babies at home, the mood of the babies may be that they don't want to worship Krishna in so much opulence.
Yeah.
They would like to have a simpler dressing so that they can relate better with Krishna.
That's another
Is that
thing.
acceptable?
That's personal.
Is that acceptable?
In the personal worship, those things can be adjusted, but in the temple worship, Prabhupada wanted it to be as opulent as possible so that it makes a powerful impact on the public.
We have time for like maybe one quick turban.
And maybe, let's see.
Also, I would like to
6:30.
how do we
Is there a
fix the-
Chandrika? I introduced the Chandrikas in the Vrindavan temple. Oh, here's a Chandrika. Yeah.
So just one point. I know you have lots of questions,
Yeah.
but if we keep asking questions, then you won't get the chance to see I'm going to put a turban on. So it's your choice. You can ask questions or get to see you put a turban on.
Because actually what I would prefer is I would prefer that Korma comes and does the first turn.
Okay, we can go tomorrow.
So what we'll do is this also should be following your nose like. What I've done is I pinned it through the veil, 2 times through the veil, and into the back. Sometimes the chandrikas are made with a little metal thing that comes down, and then you can just put one pin over top of that. But I found that this is more versatile. If it has the metal thing, sometimes the metal thing that comes along lowers this way. In Vrindavan they make it a little heavier, so it looks kind of like what is it called? They come down here. The kunni is the beginning of the dangly part of the kunni should be about on the level of the eye. Shouldn't be lower or higher. Right here on this level, and then dangly should come on either side. And you can even swing the kunnis one way or the other. Sometimes I swing over here. You'll see in the pictures that I show. As well? But usually you're not going to see it. You know, so things which she would be in reality, she has it, but usually I don't feel it's just another thing to take time. Okay, that's what
So if I just may make a comment, I just want to make one comment, just for all those devotees here who, after this seminar, will go back to the temples to the west. Yeah, as you can see, Aindra's got a very lovely style of dressing. This is Aindra's style of dressing, so we don't want you to go back to your temples in the west and say, no, this is the way I saw in the seminar, therefore we have to do it, and challenge the local temple authorities. We need to be flexible. The Pujaris should be flexible enough to fit in wherever they are. Even though they may think this is wrong the way they're doing it, we don't want you to create a disturbance. You need to
and then blame the MI.
Blame the ministry or blame Aindra or something like that. You need to, I mean, Aindra's got a wonderful style of dressing, and you see in Vrindavan, so many beautiful flowers and, flowing lines and stuff like that. But keep in mind, your temple authorities, your local devotees may not appreciate it. And so our idea is not to create disturbances.
So then the way you have to subvert. And like an inlay, you do a little bit, and then you do a little bit more, and you add, and when they get used to that, then you can do a little more.
Don't create. What we're saying is don't create disruptions.
Don't make waves. That's another thing.
You usually have a string coming down from the top.
There's a string coming. The string is coming not from the back side, but usually from the top, closer to, not in the middle of her head, but just behind her head. And the effulgence is an important point of discussion if you're going to use effulgence, which most temples do. Is that you have to look from down here.
From the darshan.
You have to look from the darshan, from the position of the devotees would be seeing, and the middle of the effulgence should be in the middle, like between her eyes. You look. You don't want the effulgence to be up too high, and you don't want it to be too low. So you have to pull it up and get used to, what it looks like from. First you look at it when it's right here, then you come up here and see what it looks like there. Then you get the idea of how much space actually is required for it to be right, and then you can get it right every time. And the same thing with Shama. And usually, just for fun, to make it a more festive mood, I like to put flowers in the effulgence too. Not everybody does that. Yeah. We'll do flowers tomorrow.
Hopefully that's the first one. Okay, so we'll wind up there.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So please try to come on time. I'm sorry I wasn't on time.
I was on time.
No, but I wasn't. I wasn't on point. But I'll make it endeavor to be here on time tomorrow.
And let's get Korma Chaitanya here.
Well, I was expecting to be here.
Well, he said he was coming. This has to be covered with flowers.
But basically all.
But usually you'll find it on many deities, it's carved into the stone. On our Shankaran now it's carved, but it's not painted gold. So I usually guide it, even though there is
It's very
I hide it
because I understand.
He's not
Any other questions? Is it the same as you start putting shutters? Is there like a hard fast rule? You always want to, even if the weather starts getting warmer, you just stick to it.
my opinion. I mean, we do follow that rule. At the beginning of Charti, first day of Charti, we stop the people.
That's what I was thinking.
And then on the on Shivaratri yesterday, it wasn't announced. I don't know why they didn't announce Shivaratri, but yesterday was Shivaratri. Then we started because usually it changes from in Vrindavan. The winter schedule starts on first day of Kartik, and the summer schedule starts on Shivaratri. So here is not; they're not doing Shivaratri starting the summer schedule. It's still in the winter schedule.
So I guess to that point,
but that, for us, for what we do in Vrindavan is that when we keep, because we like to see without a ship, because you can see a beautiful navel. So we go as long as possible. It's not that when the peacock fan stops necessarily we start putting shirts on. Only when it starts to get a little cooler, then we put on shirts. And when it starts to get like during the Shishirsa season, that's the actual coldest part of the day. But in different parts of the world, it's going to be different. So you have to adjust according to the actual climatic conditions. Stick with it until a certain point when it's actually really getting cold. No. Both ways. Different ways. I'm just showing you that I like it. That kind of matches. There's different ways. I usually I don't really care. Sometimes there's nothing in the middle. Yeah, that depends on the individual situation. I'm just showing you like this. There's like in the winter time, you can do like that, and then you can have like Sham's wool cheddar coming down this way. Or you can even have this shifted over to this side where it's coming like that. Yeah. I mean, there's different ways of doing it. Or you can have coming like, I'll explain. I just did that to show what was within the realm of possibilities.
Aindra, what is the technique of
It's called Chandrika. No, you don't want to do that. Sometimes, but when you have this, when you have the gene,
Here it is, right in front of there, and has like 15 people, it's like, dear Lord, please take all my
there are different kinds of, even there's different kinds of Chandrika where there's like 3 mangoes, in succession.
It's a unique thing, it's got like a flight.
That's for Shamsi. And when we get to the ribbons, I'll have a thing or two to say about that. Gourd. Yeah. You don't take kids.
I can collect them as a temple.
In spring.
Like I remember, like after you sent.
Yeah. Someone took them? No. Yeah, you can come back. Yeah. So just come. You have to leave early. So just set them somewhere.
I forwarded you. I'm ready to help you. Yeah.